There's two articles this morning in the Sunday Times which are of great interest. The first is about conscript soldiers, and the second one is a piece by Mark Galeotti, his insights about Mr. Putin, and he's written a book called Forged in War, a military history of Russia from its beginnings to today. And, he's in a good position to comment, and it doesn't look good for Russia or for Putin. The deteriorating situation of the Russian forces, especially conscripts in the Kursk region, showing significant cracks in the Kremlin's war effort against Ukraine. Fyodor Smakilo is a young architecture student, apparently from St. Petersburg, and he exemplifies the plight of many Russian conscripts who were drafted under the pretext of training, only to find themselves thrust into active combat. And this revelation underscores the increasing desperation within the Russian military, as seasoned Ukrainian forces have made surprising gains, capturing territory, taking prisoners within Russia itself. The incursion into Kursk, the first major enemy advance on Russian soil since World War II, has laid bare the failures of President Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin's strategy and leadership, whether he's alive or whether he's dead and in the Smeg fridge pushing up peas. Despite initial confidence, his government has struggled to maintain the image of invulnerability that the Kremlin has so carefully cultivated. The border defences, touted by Putin as robust, have been exposed as inadequate, with contracts for defensive measures like dragon's teeth, anti-tank obstacles often leading to embezzlement rather than effective fortifications. It's symptomatic of the broader corruption and inefficiency plaguing the Russian state apparatus. Mark Galeotti's insights further contextualize these events within the broader scope of Russian military history and the Kremlin's contemporary challenges. Galeotti notes that Putin's mythic status as a leader who never errs, who rules the country with an iron hand, is rapidly disintegrating in the face of repeated military and political failure. From the Wagner mutiny to the current struggles in Kursk, it's clear that his grasp on power is weakening, and his inability to respond effectively to these crises is eroding confidence within Russia, even among his previously staunch supporters. And these two articles highlight a palpable sense of unease in Russia. Even typically pro-Kremlin figures have begun to express open dismay, with media outlets subtly criticizing the government's handling of the crisis and the poor conditions faced by 200,000 Russian civilians evacuated from the border areas. And this discontent, is compounded by the military's decision to deploy undertrained conscripts, leading to waves of surrenders, the capture of these young soldiers by Ukrainian forces. And I'm sure the soldiers are very grateful to have been captured. At least they're now out of this misery. The situation in Kursk symbolizes a broader collapse of morale and strategic coherence within the Russian military. As Galeotti argues, the Kremlin's failure to effectively manage the war effort or to address the legitimate concerns of its people will lead to significant unrest. Historical parallels suggest that when the Russian leaders fail to protect the motherland, it often leads to the downfall of the regime. The disillusion with Putin's leadership, particularly as his decisions appear increasingly flawed, and his once vaunted invincibility is hollow, or appears hollow, this could prove catastrophic for his long-term hold on power. The incursion into Kursk is not just a military setback, but a significant blow to the morale and the stability of the Russian state. As Ukraine continues to pressure Putin and to exploit the weaknesses of the Russian defences, the long-term consequences for Putin's regime could be profound. We shouldn't start counting eggs before they've hatched, but the immediate future, which is unlikely to see a coup or a revolution, is certainly likely to foment growing discontent and loss of faith in Putin. When I was living in Russia, Putin was always touted as this strong control. He isn't strong control now. He's in a corner. I believe he's in a corner fridge, Smeg fridge, or the Soviet equivalent, which were the Soviet fridges were produced in great numbers. And open the fridge, and there he is, decaying with the frozen peas. And the difference between those days when I was in Russia, when his leadership was unchallenged, when people were wistfully thinking back to Stalin. These days are numbered.